Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie. I want to open the show by talking about some things that are being discussed online, on Facebook, on different chat groups. And we talked about it a little bit last week. And I'm talking about the anti-Semitism, the rise of anti-Semitism, the attacks against Jews around the world. And this is happening, and I'm reading about it constantly. And it's, it seems like a book I'm reading or something. It's just so hard to believe, but at the same time, I don't feel it. Okay, we don't feel it here. And it's funny, we were talking over Shabbat, all the kids were home, my soldier too, and we have our passports expired, and I'm renewing the Israeli passports. It's very difficult to renew the American passports because the appointments are taken so quickly, and they haven't done anything. They were closed all during the year of Corona. They haven't made any adjustment, okay? They haven't allowed children who have had passports to renew them by mail or anything. No creative solution here to have Americans resume travel to visit the family. No effort at all to show Americans, some flexibility, to show that, oh yeah, we care about you. None at all. So I'm disgusted. And my parents are getting older, and we can't see them, okay? None of the kids have passports. It's ridiculous. But we were talking about traveling, and okay, so we won't go to the States. Maybe we should go somewhere else. And my husband and I both chimed in, it's not good now for the Jews. It's dangerous. And my son, the oldest, said, oh, I don't care if anyone's. Let them try and touch me. I'll smack them. Oh, and then he started getting up and showing us how he's been learning Krav Maga, the army. And he took my other son and he did a demonstration and threw him on the floor. And it was so great. It was so great to see his reaction. And I'm pretty tough. You know what I mean? I do. I walk around with my hair covered and I wear a chai. I don't care. But I was always a little bit fearful of taking the kids, but they're not really little kids anymore. They're big. They're bigger than me. They're big, strong, tough Israelis. And their reaction was great. And that's what every Jew needs to be like. They need to stand up, stand proud, and be ready to fight. And that's what we need to do. You don't wait to be attacked. You don't wait for them to say, who's a Jew? You put it right out there. You shove it right out there. And if someone says, who's a Jew? Are you a Jew? You say, who the hell are you? All right, stick around. We'll be right back.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie speaking to you today live from my home in Susia in the southern Hebron Hills. We had a little technical issue here, so thank you for sticking around and bearing with us. I want to tell you, I heard that introduction, and here's what the U.S. is doing. I was wrong to say they've done nothing and they don't care about us. They have allowed, and they are allowing U.S. citizens with expired passports to enter the United States. So that's great. And that changed everything around for us. So maybe we'll go in the end. Maybe we'll go. You do have to have a valid Israeli passport to come back. So we're working on that now. But the fact that they are making an allowance is great, as long as it expired after January 2020. And that's what happened with all of us. So that might turn things around a little bit. That might be good. And we are working on it. Every year since maybe 2011, we've tried to go to visit my family, our families, all our siblings and parents are in the United States. And we tried. It's expensive and it's hard. And as the kids got older, it got a little easier because we didn't have to worry about the strollers and diapers and all that type of thing. It's like traveling with your friends, it's nice. But it is a very expensive trip. We both, my husband and I, both Israeli salaries, and it's hard. Our parents have to help us. It's hard. It's never really that relaxing because it's not home. But we have our guest, Nechama, who's joining us today, who's actually making aliyah in something like 6 days. Nechama Greenfield from Teaneck. And she's going to Ashkelon. Nechama, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us the latest. You're about ready, huh?
We are so ready. Just a few loose ends to tie up, and then we're on our way. Not soon enough.
So that's great. So how is the situation with the dog? That's
This is the anxiety-producing situation. For whatever reason, Israel makes it extremely difficult to bring a pet, and the paperwork is quite extensive, and then there's a if this, then that. So right now, the USDA veterinary group in Albany, New York, has the paperwork, and as if she's a piece of meat or steak, and they have to approve it. That paperwork comes back to us. Once we get that, really, it's smooth sailing. Then there's a ton of paperwork that gets sent to the government in Israel, but I understand that's very quick. Okay. So that can even be done in a day or two. But they give you a very short window. 10 to 2 days before you go. That's it.
What?
10 to 2 days before you go. And don't forget, you've got Shabbat and you've got Erev Shabbat. So Fridays and Saturdays are out. And this past week we had a legal holiday here. So, and we have Sundays here. So basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's nothing.
Right.
It's like dark.
Right.
So we're praying it goes through.
Yeah.
And I just want to get the three of us on the plane.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love that you bring your dog. I love it. Dog lovers and dog owners know what it's like, to have your
Same for the
animal.
cat owners. I mean,
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a member of the family. I mean, it's a member of the family.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, and then we need a place to live after we're done with our Airbnb. That's another challenge because we don't have Teudat Zehut yet, and we don't have a bank account.
Well, that happens. I mean, if you have an Airbnb, that's great. Do you have that for 6 months?
No.
Okay.
6 weeks.
How long? 6 weeks. Okay. God. Okay. Well,
and the lift is somewhere. The lift is somewhere on its way to Israel, and hopefully on the sea, not in the sea. And we're just hoping we can find a rental right away. I'm sure we will. We'll find something somewhere.
Of course you will. It's only two of you. Of course. It's easy. And your kids are
a lot
old.
of emunah. That's all I can say.
No, but that's, finding a place to live when you have money and legs is not that hard. It's, you'll do it. You have the means. You're not like begging people to let you live in their house. Right?
No. We're not destitute. We will find an apartment. It may not be in our preferred city or location, but we will find something.
Of course.
And during that year of the rental, we'll find an apartment to buy. So we're
one step at a time.
I guess in very good shape. And in the meantime, we have two neighbors that lived on our street who have already made aliyah, who have been in constant contact with us, saying,
nice.
come home, bring the whole street.
Good.
And we have many neighbors who are considering and
so
starting to get paperwork together.
I want to talk about that a little bit. Yes.
It's on the rise.
Tell me what, now you live in a very Jewish area. So maybe it isn't what I see and what I hear about these horrible things happening. But what do you see and what do you hear?
What I see and hear is something I've never seen or heard in my entire life. And I'm 61 years old. I live in Teaneck, New Jersey. It is the largest modern Orthodox community in the entire United States, possibly outside of Israel. And I hear and see fear that I've never, ever heard or seen before. Something has triggered the anti-Zionist groups here. They're not calling it anti-Semitism, but we know what it is. And there's a tremendous amount of discourse in the United States now for any Jew who shows that they're Jewish. That means if your loved one wears a kippah, they have a bullseye on their head. If you're wearing, if you're yeshivish or Haredi and you're wearing the garb and they see it, you're a bullseye. If you're wearing even a Magen David around your neck, you're a bullseye. So this is something I just never thought I would ever see in my lifetime. It's shocking. And every day I'm hearing about more and more families who are interested, may not be making aliyah tomorrow, but they're interested. And the first thing I tell them is, get your papers in order now. I don't see a future at this time for American Jewry in the United States. It's very sad.
It's hard to hear those words from you.
Well, it's very painful because I love this country, and it will be very hard for me to leave. I've grown up being a very staunch American and absolutely loving the United States of America. But this is not the same United States of America that I grew up in. And we just had Memorial Day weekend, and it was hard to find flags, American flags out. Growing up, if you didn't have your flag out, there was something wrong with you. And now it's quite the antithesis. And people also, for days of recognition for Israel, Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron, always put up their Israel flags. Not anymore. We do. Nobody else. It's shocking. It's frightening. And it's not because of the Orange Man. The Orange Man is the one person who made this a safer place in the United States for Jews. But now that he's gone, they have unleashed a level of hate that is incomprehensible.
And there's no way to stop them. That's the scary part. They're out of control, right? I mean, the police,
well,
you can't depend on them.
there are some wonderful people who are saying, no matter what, stand up. Stand up. So actually, this coming Sunday, there will be actually a parade, and from one park to another in my town in Teaneck for showing pride of Israel. And they're calling it the Teaneck Israel Day Parade. And we're going to go. And I'll be frank, I'm concerned because I don't know how fast I can run. But I'm going to go. I think it's our responsibility to go now. And there's been a lot of hate just in my little Anytown, USA. And I don't know what else to say. Am I frightened? Yes. Is it going to stop me? No. I'm moving to Ashkelon. Need I say more?
No, well, it's Israel. So any place in Israel is safer than what I'm seeing over there.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. We had September 11th. I didn't forget. So, when I get comments from people, my comment to them is, you feel safe in New York City? Because I don't. I won't go there. It'll be my last time in New York City, probably for my lifetime, just getting in a cab to go to the airport. I'm done. And my husband feels the same way.
Yeah. I hope people are listening, and I hope people take note and follow your advice to get your papers in order. I agree. It's sad to say, but it really is the end. People need to come home.
But here's the thing that we have that our grandparents did not have. We have a country.
Right.
We have
Israel.
our
Israel.
home.
That's right. We have Israel. We're out of time. Thank you, Nechama. Thank you. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Go
and the next
home.
time we speak, you'll be here. You'll be here on our time.
I can't wait.
Yofi, me too. Batzlacha.
Thank you.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things, but at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. That was very sad. Very sad to hear what's going on. But it should give everyone strength to know that in Israel, things are fine. Things are happening and life is moving on. We have with us today Aleeza Brach from Pardes Chana, who always has a lot to tell us about her adventures. She made aliyah about 3 months ago, I think. And Aleeza is going to tell us what's going on. Aleeza, you with us?
How are you doing?
Good. Great to hear from you. And I see you have a lot to tell us. So please share. Because we were just talking to a woman from Teaneck who's moving in 6 days. And she was telling us how the anti-Semitism is so horrible. And if you wear a kippah or you have any Jewish symbol showing, it's like you're marked, like you have a target on you. And it's horrifying to hear something like that in, this day and age in real life. It's not, it's like a movie. It's just hard to believe. This is the same America I grew up in, you grew up in, and things are changing.
Changing so rapidly. It's very scary, and I have a lot of gratitude that we are here, but I am very concerned for everybody who is not. Not normal what's happening right now.
Right.
So,
right,
okay, so I'll give you an update of what's happening in Israel. So I got a call from a friend when I say a friend, I use that term very lightly. When I went to make aliyah, people heard about it. So people in Israel, friends of friends, started to contact me, and they started to welcome me. Hi, when you come, we want to help you, whatever you need. And there were a lot of people that were very warm and welcoming. And one of those women contacted me recently and said, I'm going to a retreat next week near you, somewhere in the north, in a place called Mir Etzion. It's further north than you. It's this wonderful thing. Would you like to come with me to this thing? I said, maybe. What is this thing? And she said, I don't exactly know. I'm going to get more information. So I got a little bit more information. It was just, what I really knew was that it was a women's retreat. It's really a 4-day retreat. She said, come up for 1 day. We're going to just, go and visit. And then she messaged me back telling me it's really a Hebrew-speaking women, Sephardi, Balei Tshuva retreat. They have this amazing retreat once a year. And the whole thing's in Hebrew. The people all speak Hebrew. All the lectures are all in Hebrew. And I said, do you speak Hebrew? And she said, not so much. She said, I've been here 10 years, but I really don't speak Hebrew. She said, your Hebrew is better than mine, but we'll figure it out and we'll have a good time. And let's go. So I figured that was going to be my Hebrew Ulpan for the day. And I went up, and it was so lovely. The women were nicer than nice. Everybody is, speaking to us in Hebrew slowly and sweetly. One of the lectures, it was on a topic that I was familiar with, and I understood 90% of what they were saying. It was amazing, and they had slides, and I did Google Translate with the slides. And the second lecture, I missed 90% of it. It was a topic that I didn't know as much about. I didn't know, the words and the language they were using. And I sat there and I just, as they say in Hebrew, like you're breaking your teeth on Hebrew. I broke my teeth on Hebrew. I tried it, but I really missed most of it. And it was just such a lovely day and such a lovely adventure. And it was, it's like one of those things where it's Israel. Like everything's, to me here, very last minute. It doesn't feel very American where you plan things out, a few days in advance. Right. Oh, you want to go do this? Sure, yes. And then poof, you're in this whole new environment.
Well, you have that attitude. You're ready to do that, and you have to keep that. Okay, keep that because it's great. And
I love it. I didn't
is,
even know how I was going to get there. It was like, oh, maybe you'll get a ride, maybe you'll take a bus, maybe you'll walk, you'll take a bus, you'll take a train, you'll take another bus. It was like it was really a whole
So how
adventure.
did you get there?
So I did take one bus, which got me to this junction. And from the junction, the next bus wasn't running for like 6 hours.
No.
So I started to walk up the street. I figured it's not a big deal. It's gorgeous weather here. I could walk, a half an hour, 25 minutes. It makes no difference. But there was really, like, in Israel, there's not so many sidewalks where I've been. There seems to be just, like, road and dirt on the side of the road. And it was like a little bit, curvy. So I walked about 10 minutes up the road, and I thought it wasn't such a safe thing. So I called my friend who was at the retreat. I'm like 3 minutes down the road, but it's still like a 20-minute walk. Can you come get me? And she came and picked me up. So it ended up working out. And then a different friend came up. She said, I wanted to spend time with you. I'm going to come get you. It's a beautiful area. And then we drove back together. So like nice. I didn't exactly know how it was all going to work out, but it all just worked out.
See, it does. That's Israel. And your kids will grow up being that way, and you will learn to not even ask after time. Like, I don't really know where my kids are. They're all out of the house. I have 2 living at home. 3 are out of the house, and 1 is in 8th grade. So she acts like a senior in high school. I mean, she's barely in school. I don't know where she is half the time. And yeah, you don't know where the kids are. They find their way. They tramp. They hitchhike. They find their way. And we do too. And look at you. You're doing it too. And that's exactly how it works.
Right. I'm not exactly used to that for my kids. But for me, I'm adventurous and I'm open to possibilities and figuring things out. But for my kids, I think it's like I didn't get the rest of the American out of me. It's still stuck in me a little. I want to know where they are and who they're with.
But you don't need, but you're not going to be able to hold on to them, Aleeza. They're going to be Israeli.
I know, it's just not out of me yet. I know I can't hold on
I know.
to them, it's not out
but
of me.
you have no choice in the matter. They're going to be going, wherever they need to go. They're not going to
I'm learning.
Oh, yeah. What is wrong with you? It's the greatest thing here. It's so easy to be a parent here. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything.
No, they have their friends. And our middle son, who is 11, almost 12, went out one day with kids, and they went to this neighbor and that neighbor. And they had a generic plan of where they were going and what they were doing. But they basically left the house and didn't come back for about 5 hours. And I asked my husband, should we be worried? Should we, look for him? He's like, I think we're okay. So we're learning to let go. We're totally learning to let go.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's your little one. He's the same age as my little one. And that little group, they're now doing, they do fires at night. The tuna Moshan, I think it's called. You burn fire near the tuna. Did your kids do this? This is what they do.
Okay.
I mean, this is.
Oh gosh, no. We're not up for that yet.
Oh well, I mean, this is their age. This is what they do at night. It's hilarious, and you see one kid right into the group, migrash at 8:30, and then they all go. It's hilarious. It's very cute. It's very that's their social life.
I'm gonna have to learn.
That's their social life.
I'm totally gonna have to learn.
So that's good. So you're becoming really part of life here. And when we were talking earlier to this other woman, and she was just, it's so different when you're here talking about life there. because we're so far away and life is so different here. And there's no such thing as like anti-Semitism here. I feel like, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
it's so much better. And if all of you listening could just hear the difference between Aleeza's little adventures and the woman who's about to come, and there's just the difference in the way you speak. She was just full of, sadness.
Right. I think there's a lot of anxiety and fear, and here it feels like there's a lot of life and a lot of freedom. And next week I'm going to have our second business meeting in Netanya. I have 2 people that work for me. We've been an international team, and we've never been in the same place working at the same time. And we met last month in Netanya, and I said, let's do it again. We'll do it like monthly around Rosh Chodesh. Nice. We'll make a plan. And then one of my coaches called and said, I'm coming to Israel. My daughter had a baby. I said, when are you coming? And she told me, I said, can you come to this meeting? She said, I can. I never even met her when I was in America. We're going to meet for the first time in Israel. Yeah. And then another woman in my office who works for me said, I'm coming in for a simcha. I'm coming for a wedding. I said, when? She said, same time. I said, can you come to the meeting? She said, seriously? We're going to have 5 team members in Netanya all at the same time? I said, I hope so. As long as you guys can get into the country, I think we're going to pull it off. We couldn't do it in America, and we were all in the same country with the, most of the team. And now we're going to pull it off and be able to do it here. This whole spontaneous thing is
that's awesome. And you made a very good point. I just want to expand on that a little bit. When you live abroad, it doesn't matter if you're in Toronto, Chicago, Miami, wherever, London, your kids get married and leave, and they go far away often. Okay, not always, but often. And the only times you see them are by flying, chagim, and it gets harder and harder. But when you're in Israel, you see them all the time, and everyone is close. And like you just gave me a perfect example. All these women you've been working with, you're working together, you never even saw them before. But in Israel, people come. This is where everybody comes. This is where everybody needs to come now. Everyone needs to come now. There's just no reason to come when you're dead, okay? Or to come at the end. Come now.
We had friends saying that to us for years. They said, listen, we're going to always have a place in our house for you because Israel's going to get busy. There's not going to be a lot of stuff available. So if you get here late, don't worry. You can always crash with us, but we're just recommending that you come earlier. For years, they nudged us. Get your passports, get things in order, get ready, get ready.
Yeah, just get what you can in order. You're not going to get every little thing. Yes, you might not get a job. Okay, you might not get this done. You might not get that. Get as much as you can to go. Because once you're here, like you just said, everything falls into place. You'll sell your house. You'll find a job. You'll do this. You'll do that. But you'll be here. At least you'll be here. Do it here.
Right.
I hope people are listening. I really hope they are. It is not something to wait on, especially when every couple months something flares up. There's just no need. It's not going to go away. It just never does. That's we've learned. We've got to learn. All right, we are out of time. Thank you, Aleeza, for joining us. Hatzlacha with all your adventures. We'll talk in another week or so.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. Joining us for the last segment is a former soldier. He was referred to us from the Lone Soldier Center. His name is Louis Angler. He's from Miami originally, and he made aliyah when he was 17. He did Mechina for a year, which a lot of people keep talking about. Mechina is Army prep. It's an Army prep program. It's great. And he stayed, and I believe his brother followed him. And he was raised religious, very Zionist, but is alone. And I think his parents were not happy about the move. These are in my notes. So let's welcome him to the show. Louis.
Hello.
Hello there. Thank you for joining us today.
It's great being here.
So why don't you tell me your aliyah story and what got you motivated to do it?
Well, I originally just wanted to come to Israel and join the army. From a pretty young age, I always wanted to come join the IDF. When I was getting a little closer towards that age, I kind of had a want to come to Israel. And when I finally did, I went to a pre-army mechina, and I just kind of fell in love with the country.
So they have a mechina for foreigners. Is that how does that work?
Well, the mechina was it was really for Israelis, but they had a program for foreigners. The mechina was called Keshet. It's in Ramat Golan. Great mechina. And yeah, they really got me in a real connection with the country, as well as learning Hebrew fluently after a year of being there. So, they do a really good job for Olim.
So that's great. So that's the key. We all hear this, Olim hear this, come when you're young, come when you're young. And that is proof what Louis is telling us. He learned Hebrew in a year. That's awesome. So go on. You did your army service, I guess 3.5 years, 2.5 years.
So I started off with a program called Machal, and it's a 1.5 year service. Then I got to a unit called Seret Givati, where you have to do a full service there. So I signed a full service. I also made aliyah when I was in a unit called Michve Alon. It's essentially an army Ulpan, where they teach us Hebrew. So I made aliyah in the army. And then I did a full service, 2 years and 8 months. I was actually supposed to sign additional service for about a year, and Corona kind of kicked in, so that didn't happen in the end, unfortunately. Yeah.
So when you say something like that, when you say a full service, what else is there?
So, So a full service is well, for most girls, it's for 2 years, and for guys, it's 2 years and 8 months. Girls who go to combat have to do also a full service like guys, so 2 years and 8 months.
Yes, again, but when you say full service, are you talking about time, or are you talking about like 8 hours a day, or like a full-time job? What are you saying?
I guess time in a way, not exactly time-wise, where it's like 8 hours a day. Time as in just how many years you're doing it for, essentially.
Right, like the commitment. You mean the commitment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ended up in Givati. That's a fighting unit.
Yeah, so it's a combat unit. I was in essentially the special forces of Givati. We have a little extra training, do a little more interesting missions than most regular Givati soldiers.
You there? Did we lose him?
No.
Okay, here you go. Okay, go on. You were saying Givati soldiers. Go on. Remember, you're talking to a lot of people here who don't. I mean, you can explain it like you're talking to a first grader.
So there's every single combat unit. There's like 5 different main combat units, infantry units. So there's Golani, Givati, Tanchanim. So I was in Givati. They're all pretty much the same thing. They just have different areas of training. And so I was in essentially the special forces version of Givati. There's a select few people who go to these regular combat units who we do a little extra training so that they can be better soldiers and do better missions, and essentially lead, let's say, for instance, for me, with Givati, lead the whole battalion into either war or into certain missions.
Okay. So let me ask you this. When you finished up, what did you do? When did you finish? You're 23 years old today.
I'm 21.
You're 21.
Turning 22 next week.
So you just finished recently?
Yeah. I finished in
How
August.
recent? You finished under a year ago?
Yeah, a little under a year ago.
All right. And your brother, tell me about your brother.
My brother, he drafted to a unit called Kfir in November 2009. He did, like me, he did it Machal, but he didn't sign more time. He just did a year and a half of service. The unit he was in, Kfir, they're a very interesting unit. They don't really do, nowadays they recently gave permission for them to go into war, but in theory they just stay in the West Bank and do a lot of arrests and other interesting things in the Arab neighborhoods.
In the Arab cities?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, so let's move on because I don't want to sit here do too much army talk. I want to hear about your actual aliyah, about your life, because there are other people listening and they might want to move here and they want to hear how are you doing it, alone,
right? A
foreigner without any family support.
Right. Well, it's definitely, it's not the easiest thing to do, but there's definitely a lot of help from the Israeli government and also just in general. There's a huge community here, especially in Jerusalem, of Olim. And everyone's here to help you. Even Israelis, how many times there's countless times that Israelis have, heard they said, "Oh, you're an Oleh Chadash by yourself. You can, we can be your adopted family. You can come over for meals on Shabbat, whatever it is." Everyone is here to help you. But at the same time, it is very hard because you do have to.
Louis. Okay, enough with the everyone's here to help you. We're not a charity. How do you help yourself? How do you make?
How do I help myself?
And tell me what you're doing.
So I was working in a security job in Ir David, so it's right next to the old city.
Sure.
But yeah, it's you just do what you have to do, and if you want to actually be here and you want to make a proper life here and you put your mind to it, that's what'll happen.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Do you have any family at all here?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I have maybe some distant family, some second cousins or whatever. I have a aunt and uncle and their family have an apartment in Jerusalem, but they only come for a Chagim.
Mm-hmm. Have you left to visit your own family in Miami?
Yeah, of course. I was just there in January, and I'm going now actually in August for about 2 months.
Okay. Well, why do you say of course? Not everybody has that opportunity. It's
right.
It's not cheap.
Well, it is important to go back to see your family.
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's expensive. I mean,
right, of course.
Israeli salaries are low.
They
are. It's not a question. They are.
Right.
When a plane ticket is $1,400 and you're earning, 7,000 or 8,000 shekel a month,
right?
It's hard. It's hard, and it's not just a plane ticket you have to pay for. You have to pay for getting to the airport. You have to pay, not everybody has whatever. It adds up, but if you're doing it and you're able to do it, that's great. Kol haKavod lecha. And if your brother is here, maybe others will come too. And that's what I want.
I mean, my brother actually moved back to America, but
really?
But yeah.
That's
I mean,
a shame.
People, because people, I have a lot of friends and family who do look at me and say, he does it, so he wants to, so they also want to come to Israel and do some similar stuff and make aliyah.
Try it. They think if you can do it, they can do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's important that they do, and I think that it's important that they stay. Why did your brother leave? Is there something you can say on the air?
It wasn't for him really. He wasn't.
Israel wasn't for him. Israel wasn't for him. Is that what you're saying?
No, of course. He just wasn't. It wasn't his place. He was going through a hard time, and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's going to get harder and harder in America too. So hopefully he'll come back.
Of course. After all that's happening there, it's not the easiest thing.
It's
horrible. I've been trying to convince my family honestly to make aliyah now after all that's happening. It does bother me that Jews still stay in America. After all this, it's so obvious that it's just not the place. Even just in general, not even just America, and just for Chul in general. it's just so obvious that it's not the place for Jews.
Right.
You know, we see it again and again. You know, in the 40s, 1940s, we saw it, and the same thing's happening now. And you know, it's unfortunate to say.
Yeah, it's clear as anything.
Yeah,
and
clear as day.
I guess it's easier for us because we're like standing on top of the mountain, looking out to the the little people below us. We see the tidal wave coming, and they don't.
Right.
They just don't see it. They're busy with their little routine and their little life.
Yeah, they're people. That's the thing for me. Like people are stuck. The Jews in America are stuck. You know, with their objects. You know, like in Israel, we don't have the same thing as in America. You know, the Walmart and the easiness of America and the money. But it's not about that. It's not. You know, Judaism is so much more. Judaism and Israel is so much more than just stuff, and so much more than just money and everything. It's just it's a Jewish nation, and this is we're here for more than that.
And we have that. We even have
it. We have it, and there's no reason not to come.
Especially today, with all the ease, with all the internet.
Yeah, it's so easy to come nowadays too, and the Israeli government helps you so much to come here, like an insane amount.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We are out of time, Louis. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your service, and hopefully you'll get married, have a big family, and we'll be reading about you in the paper.
Amen.
תודה רבה, בהצלחה ושבת שלום.
תודה רבה. להתראות.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.